Hey everybody, welcome to another deep dive. Um, Today we're going to be taking a look at this guy, Bob Proctor.
Oh yeah, Bob Proctor.
Yeah, have you heard of him?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, big name in the self-help world.
So I've been looking into his stuff, and it's pretty fascinating, and we've got some interesting source material to dig into today.
Yeah.
Um, One of the things that I found really interesting is that he actually started out, flat broke.
Really?
Yeah, he was like in debt and really struggling, and then turned his life around using a lot of the principles that he now teaches.
Wow.
Yeah. So we're going to kind of look at like his story and the ideas that he talks about and see like, what we can learn from that.
Sounds good.
One of the core ideas that I keep seeing over and over again in his work is this idea that our thoughts create our reality.
Hmm.
So like everything starts in the mind.
Okay.
And I'm curious to get your take on that because, I know there's a lot of talk about positive thinking and the law of attraction and all that stuff.
Right.
Um, but how much do you think our thoughts actually influence our external reality?
I think it's huge. I mean, think about it. Like every invention, every business, every like major accomplishment started as a thought.
Right.
Like someone had to think of it first,
Yeah.
before it could become reality.
Okay. So it's not just about, like wishing for things or like hoping for things, but it's really about like the thought patterns that we have.
Exactly. It's like the dominant thoughts that we're holding in our minds. Like that's what we're going to tend to attract into our lives.
So if I'm constantly thinking about like lack or problems or negativity,
Right.
then I'm actually attracting more of that.
Yeah, you're tuning into that frequency, you're putting yourself on that wavelength.
Okay. So it's almost like a self-fulfilling prophecy in a way.
Exactly.
Interesting. So how does this connect to like this concept of the paradigm that Proctor talks about?
Well, so the paradigm is kind of like the mental program that's running in the background of our minds.
Okay.
It's like the operating system.
Right.
It's shaped by our upbringing, our experiences, our beliefs.
So all that stuff that kind of gets programmed into us early on.
Exactly. And a lot of it we're not even aware of.
Hmm.
It's just running on autopilot.
So how much control do we actually have over that? If it's kind of like, programmed into us.
That's the big question, right?
Yeah.
I mean, Proctor would say that we have a lot more control than we think.
Okay.
But it starts with becoming aware of the paradigm.
Becoming aware of like what's actually running in the background.
Exactly. Like, what are those underlying beliefs that are shaping my thoughts and my actions?
Okay. So if we can become aware of those beliefs, then we can start to change them.
Exactly. And that's where the real transformation happens.
Hmm.
Because if your paradigm is set for like scarcity or limitation, then it doesn't matter how hard you try.
Right.
You're always going to be bumping up against those limits.
Okay. So it's like having the brakes on even if you're trying to accelerate.
Exactly.
Wow, I like that analogy.
Yeah. So you got to reprogram the system.
Okay. So how do we actually do that?
Yeah.
Like, how do we start to change those underlying beliefs?
Well, Proctor talks a lot about the conscious and the subconscious mind
Okay.
and how they work together.
Right, because I know he uses this image of a circle
Yes, a circle.
to kind of represent the mind.
Exactly. So imagine a circle and it's divided into two parts.
Okay, like a pie chart or something.
Exactly. One part is the conscious mind.
Mm-hmm.
That's the part of us that's choosing, making decisions.
Okay.
And the other part is the subconscious mind.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the part that's much larger.
Really?
Yeah, it's like the iceberg underneath the surface.
Interesting.
And the subconscious mind is really powerful
Okay.
because it accepts everything that it's exposed to.
Without question.
Without question, it doesn't discriminate, it doesn't analyze,
Mhm.
it just absorbs.
Wow.
So if we're constantly feeding our subconscious mind with negative thoughts, beliefs, fears,
Right.
then that's what it's going to manifest in our lives.
Okay, so that's where, like, the power of positive thinking and affirmations and all that comes in.
Exactly.
So it's not just about, like, thinking positive thoughts in the moment, but it's really about, like, consistently feeding our subconscious mind with those positive messages.
Exactly, because the subconscious mind is what's running the show behind the scenes.
Right.
It's what's driving our actions, our behaviors, our results.
Okay, so if we can start to influence our subconscious mind,
Yes.
then we can start to change our reality.
Exactly.
Okay, that's pretty powerful stuff.
Yeah.
So how do we do that? Like, how do we start to influence our subconscious mind?
Well, Proctor talks a lot about the importance of attitude.
Attitude. Okay.
Yeah, he calls it the magic word.
The magic word.
Because attitude is really the key to unlocking the power of the subconscious mind.
Interesting. So how does that work?
Well, attitude is a combination of our thoughts, our feelings, and our actions.
Okay.
And it affects every area of our lives.
Really?
Yeah, our perception, our use of time, our creativity, our logic, our earning ability, our relationships.
Wow, so everything.
Everything.
Okay.
So if we have a negative attitude,
Right.
it's going to hold us back in every area of our lives.
So it's not just about like being grumpy or pessimistic. It actually has like a tangible impact on our results.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And often that negative attitude stems from a limiting paradigm.
Oh, okay. So it goes back to those beliefs that we were talking about earlier.
Exactly. It's like trying to run a marathon with a backpack full of rocks.
You're not going to get very far.
Exactly. So we
Yeah.
got to lighten the load.
Okay. So we got to change those beliefs. We got to shift our attitude. And then that's going to start to influence our subconscious mind and create a different reality.
Precisely.
Okay. So that's kind of like the overview of this whole concept of the paradigm and the power of the mind.
Right.
But how do we actually make lasting changes?
That's the million-dollar question.
Yeah. Like, how do we break free from those
Yeah.
deeply ingrained limiting paradigms
Right.
and create new ones that empower us to live the life we desire?
That's where we get into some really interesting stuff.
Okay. I'm all ears.
It's about tapping into something he calls the higher faculties.
Higher faculties.
Yeah. What are those?
So it's like perception, will, imagination, memory, intuition, reason,
Yeah.
like all these things that we have within us,
Okay.
but that most people don't really understand how to use.
Okay. So it's not like, we're not talking about like ESP or anything like that.
No, no, no. It's
Yeah.
more like these natural abilities that we all have,
Okay.
but that we need to develop.
Okay. So how do these higher faculties help us to like change our paradigm?
Well, think about it like this. Your perception shapes how you see the world, right? So if you have a limited perception, you're only going to see limitations.
Right.
But if you can expand your perception,
Okay.
then you start to see more possibilities.
Okay. Well, it's like taking off the blinders.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then your will, that's your power to make choices and take action.
Right.
So if you're not using your will, you're basically letting life happen to you.
Okay.
But if you can tap into your will, you can start to create the life that you want. Okay, so it's
Yeah.
like taking control of the steering wheel.
Exactly. And then imagination, that's where the real magic happens.
Okay.
Because imagination allows us to create a vision of the life that we want.
So it's like seeing it in our mind's eye.
Exactly.
Wow.
And the more vivid and detailed that vision is,
Right.
the more powerful it becomes.
Okay, so we need to like really get clear on what we want.
Exactly. And then memory, that helps us to learn from the past and to draw on positive experiences.
Okay, so we're not like dwelling on the negative stuff.
No, we're focusing on the good stuff.
Okay,
And then intuition, that's that inner voice that guides us.
those gut feelings.
Exactly.
Okay.
And then reason, that helps us to analyze and make sound decisions.
Right.
So all these faculties working together, they give us the power to create a new paradigm.
Okay, so it's like a team effort.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've got these higher faculties,
Yeah.
but how do we actually like activate them or develop them?
Well, it's like anything else. It takes practice.
Okay.
It's like learning a new skill. The more you use these faculties, the stronger they become.
Okay, so we got to exercise our mental muscles.
Exactly.
Interesting. And then how does repetition play into all of this? Because I know he talks a lot about the importance of repetition.
Yeah, repetition is key. Because remember we talked about how the subconscious mind is like a sponge.
Right. It just absorbs everything.
Exactly. So if we want to change those deep-seated beliefs, we need to repeat those new beliefs over and over again
Okay.
until they sink in.
So it's like reprogramming the software.
Exactly. It's like creating a new groove in a record.
Okay. I like that analogy.
Yeah. So the more we repeat those new thoughts and beliefs, the more they become our default setting.
Okay. So it's not enough to just think it once or twice.
No, it's got to be a consistent effort.
Right.
It's got to be a daily practice.
Okay. So consistency is key.
Absolutely. And then the other thing that he talks about is focus.
Focus.
Yeah, he uses this analogy of a flashlight.
Oh, okay. I like analogies.
Yeah, so imagine you're in a dark room and you have a candle. The candle gives off some light, but it's not very focused.
Right.
But then you take a flashlight and you shine it on a specific spot,
Mm-hmm.
and all of a sudden that spot is illuminated.
Okay.
So our thoughts are like the light,
Okay.
and our focus is like the flashlight.
So we can use our focus to amplify the power of our thoughts.
Exactly.
Okay. That's pretty powerful.
Yeah, and when we focus our attention on a specific desire,
Mm-hmm.
it creates a burning desire within us.
So desire is like the fuel.
Exactly.
Okay. So we need the light, which is our thoughts,
Mm,
the focus, which is like the flashlight, and then the fuel, which is desire.
exactly.
Yeah.
And when you have all three of those things working together, you become unstoppable.
Wow. That's pretty inspiring. So how do we cultivate that desire? Like, is it something that we're just born with, or can we develop it?
Well, I think we're all born with certain desires,
Oh,
but I think we can also develop new desires
okay.
by focusing our attention on something that we want.
Okay.
The more we think about it, the more we visualize it, the more we talk about it, the stronger that desire becomes.
Okay, so it's like we're feeding the fire.
Exactly.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And then once we have that desire, how do we make sure that we actually achieve it?
Yeah.
Like, how do we translate that desire into reality?
Well, that's where the rubber meets the road.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
not enough to just desire something.
Right.
We have to take action.
Okay, so action is key.
Absolutely. And that's where a lot of people get stuck. They
Yeah.
have the desire, but they don't take the action.